My destiny.
By the way, your destiny is not as bad as you think.
And what is my destiny?
Multiple path.
This is as usual. When you want to receive the detailed answer, the teacher doesn't tell anything concrete.
Are you angry again? I see everything.
I am not angry anymore.
That's right. Now we will talk about your destiny. Your destiny have already started being formed at school. In the beginning, the study was given you easily. Your teacher was strict and exacting. You were a capable child, therefore you had good estimates. You read, counted well. You tried. But then you had other teachers, not so strict and exacting. You are lazy by nature.
I didn't manage to think anything as the teacher interrupted me.
Lazy, lazy. I know you. You were lazy to study, and your estimates became bad. But even then, I didn't leave you. I convinced you that you have to study. As soon as you heard me, your estimates again became good. Do you remember how you passed examinations at school? Almost on 5s. I didn't feel shabby about you. After school, you decided to go to the university. So tell me, would you enter the university with bad notes?
No, I wouldn't.
Here is the first example for you as you chose your option of destiny. After school, you could enter any university with good marks. You had many options of destiny. And if your estimates were bad, you could become only a worker.
Tell me, why didn't I enter the university on the first try?
Because you chose not that specialty which was pleasant to you. You went there where the passing grade was less. I didn't begin to help you, that's why you didn't enter.
But why didn't you begin to help? What is the difference on what specialty to study?
It's big. If you entered at once, after university, you would get for work far from the house. If you were succeeded to study up to the diploma, such work and such life would bring you not enough benefit. But the second time you entered there where you wanted, you made a right choice and successfully graduated from the university.
But if I entered the other university, what destiny would I have?
You wouldn't graduate from the other university. You would be sent down for bad progress. You would only waste your time. So you chose the most optimum option of destiny. Tell me honestly, if it was easy to study to you.
Not really.
Do you regret now that graduated from the university?
No, I don't regret.
Well, there you are. Despite difficulties, you were happy because you graduated from the university and became an engineer.
Does it mean I always had a choice?
No, it's not so. There is an event in your life which you couldn't avoid.
What event?
It is the active service. By the way, you felt your destiny and listened to my promptings. But you didn't want to go to army. You knew that the active service is difficult. Therefore, you began to study better to enter the university. If you didn't enter, you would be drafted into the army right after school. You would be a soldier. You would have a hard time. At that time, you weren't ready to army difficulties. But after university, you became older and did military service not as a soldier, but as an officer.
Why was such option inevitable in my destiny?
Such option of destiny was given to you to bring up in you a sense of responsibility. You had to learn to be in charge of other people, to be exacting. You had to learn to overcome difficulties.
Well, and how did I cope with this task?
It would be better. After army, you were given the management positions several times. but you have one trait of character which prevents you to become a good chief. You don't have enough insistence and rigidity. However, you have already gained quite sufficient experience, therefore you don't need the management positions anymore, and you won't obtain such post.
Tell me, please, what waits for me in the future?
I won't tell you.
But why?
The matter is that then you won't gain the necessary life experience. Imagine that at school, you were allowed to solve a problem, but you up and crib your neighbor's task. Such study won't bring benefit to you. So it is in life. If you know the future, it won't bring you benefit. I can tell only one. You have different options of destiny ahead. I will tell you on what the destiny of the person and how he has to act in life depends. Then you will become a master of your own fate, and you will always choose the correct option. But we will talk about it next time.
What is the destiny? For example, when you go down the street quietly, and suddenly a brick falls on your head out of nowhere. It is destiny. And what if the brick falls beside? Well, that means no house. Joke.
Destiny of the person.
My conversation with the teacher haunted me. I represented a little how the program for the computer is coded. When I studied at university, we learned programming. If you code the program correctly, the computer will give you out the correct answer. If you code the program incorrectly, you cannot receive the answer in general. But how do they make a program for the person?
The school program is made for pupils so that the school student will have learned something by the end of the academic year. The program for the person is made so that the person will have developed any qualities of the character for his life. Firstly, we look what traits of character the person has to have. For example, the person has to be courageous. In order the person cultivated the qualities of courage in himself, he has to appear in a certain life situation. For example, the rescuer has to be a courageous person. He shouldn't be afraid of going through fire and water to save the life of other persons. Or, for example, a military. He also has to be courageous to protect the homeland and not to be afraid of neither bullets nor shells. Therefore, we will write some versions of the program for such person. The person hasn't been born yet, and the program of his life will have already been written. The person can become the rescuer, the military, the doctor, the teacher, the seller. Circumstances of life will develop in such way that the person will surely choose this or that profession, and will consider that he has such destiny. The second example, let's say the person has to become a musician. To such person will be made such program that since his childhood, he will be reduced to practice music. His parents will send him to a music school. Even if the child doesn't like to practice music, his parents will force him to practice it.
It turns out that to each person his own program is formed.
Yes, to everyone. It is possible to also to say that the person has to bring up during his life, not only one trait of character, but several. If the person has to be not only courageous, but also honest in his life, there will be such events, which allow to form the necessary character.
If it is possible to make such program that the person became honest.
It is very easy to do it. For example, you walk down the street and you find a purse with money. You can consider that we threw this purse to you according to the program. In this case, to find a purse is your destiny. This event will be inevitable in your life. You can take a purse to yourself, but you can try to find the owner and to return him his money. Also, in general, you can walk past.
What then? What's the difference? What I will do with this purse?
It's very big. If you return a purse to the owner, that means you will act in good faith. And if you take away money to yourself, or you will walk past, that means you will act in bad faith. Your further destiny will depend on your choice.
What do you mean?
If you act in bad faith, you will take away a purse to yourself. That means that once you will also lose something. Not necessarily it will be money, but you have to feel on your own experience, as offensively it is to lose something. Then you will understand that ill-gotten gains never prosper, even if it lies on the road.
And if I don't understand it?
We will bring up you until you won't understand it. Your program will be made in such a way that by the end of your life, you will lose everything in general, and you will remain the beggar. But we aren't guilty in it. You have chosen such option of destiny. If you will act correctly in your life, you will have one destiny. If you will act incorrectly, you'll have other destiny.
It seems to me that it is too cruel.
It is fair. Such way of education is called the boomerang law. As you behave to others, so the others behave to you. There is the highest justice in this way.
But from where can I know how to behave correctly?
There are some simple rules.
What are these rules?
We will discuss it tomorrow.
Simple rules.
In the beginning, my conversations with the teacher took place equally. I asked something, and the teacher answered. But today our conversation took place differently. The teacher was the first to ask.
Tell me, what simple rules has the person to observe in his life?
I was surprised with such beginning of our conversation. The teacher promised me to explain these rules, and now asks me about it.
Why are you surprised? You want to learn everything from me, and I want you to learn to think. Therefore, I ask you, what do you think about it?
I had no thoughts. I honestly told the teacher about it. I don't know.
You perfectly know everything, you only don't want to think. Really, have you never heard about 10 divine precepts?
I have heard about 10 precepts, but the teacher's question turned out to be difficult for me.
Name the second precept.
The second,
Yes, the second.
I began to think feverishly what precepts I know. The first that occurred to me were precepts don't kill and don't steal.
You cannot try, all the same you won't remember. These simple rules have been known to people for some thousands years, and they still can't learn them. Well, listen and remember. Here are these 10 simple rules. Bible, Deuteronomy 5:6-21. 1. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. 2. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I the Lord thy God am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. 3. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. 4. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor, and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thine ox, nor thine ass, nor any of thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates, that thy manservant and thy maidservant may rest as well as thou. And remember that thou wast a servant in the land of Egypt, and that the Lord thy God brought thee out thence through a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm. Therefore the Lord thy God commanded thee to keep the Sabbath day. 5. Honor thy father and thy mother, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee, that thy days may be prolonged, and that it may go well with thee, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. 6. Thou shalt not kill. 7. Neither shalt thou commit adultery. 8. Neither shalt thou steal. 9. Neither shalt thou bear false witness against thy neighbor. 10. Neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife, neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox, or his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. The Bible is written long ago, but these precepts are actual now too. But the most important precept is a precept about love. The person has to learn to love other people.
Is that all? I asked.
Do you personally carry out at least one precept? But it isn't necessary to convince me that it is so. Let's check. The first precept: you don't believe in God at all. The second precept: instead of God you worship to people, and you follow the example of them. And your idols are not honest and decent people, but villains who are ready on everything to achieve material benefits for themselves and their relatives. It is a shame for you to behave honestly, but to make any muck or meanness, it isn't a shame. The third precept: you don't believe in God, but as soon as even a small trouble happened to you, you remember God at once and say, "My God, for what I have such punishment? Why did you get such a bad wife? Why do you get such disobedient children? Why do you have such a bad chief? And in general, why are there only villains around you, and only you are honest and decent?" The fourth precept: the sense of this precept is in that the person thought of God, of the spiritual, at least once a week. The fact that nothing can be done, you take literally. You lie on a sofa, you watch TV, and you do nothing. And moreover, you act like this all 7 days in a week. You consider that this precept is intended only for you, and it doesn't concern your wife, and your wife has to feed you, not only on Saturday, but in general every day. The fifth precept, and that is without mentioning your parents. On your example, it is possible to write the whole book, as it is impossible to treat parents. The sixth precept:
Here I couldn't be accused. I thought.
Do you think that killed nobody?
Here the teacher reminded me one history which it is a shame for me to remember even now, and about which I will keep silent. Don't think that I am any criminal and a murderer, but it appears that even careless thoughts or inaction the teacher can regard as murder.
The seventh precept: do you think that if you weren't untrue to your wife, you observed this precept? Mental act is also an act. Maybe should I tell you about what you thought when had recently been looked at that girl that was sitting opposite to you in the subway? Or will it be better not to do it? The eighth precept: you know yourself as you in the childhood, you climbed on others' vegetable gardens and stole the apples. The Bible is written long ago, but these precepts are actual now as well. But the most important precept is a precept about love. The person has to learn to love other people. The ninth precept: do you remember how you wanted to put the other person in the wrong at work? The 10th precept: in a word, this precept can be formulated so: don't envy. Envy is that fills your soul with dirty energy. It is energy that sticks to your soul, destroys your soul, and makes your life miserable. You have already got used to live in this dirt, so that you don't notice at all how you are sucked in by the smelly bog. Well, the most important is the next. You aren't able to love. You don't love your neighbors, because if you loved them sincerely, you would never shout at them and wouldn't be angry. Remember when you told your wife or the children the love words last time. Remember when you thanked God that He presented to you such wife and such children. We sent your soul to earth that you learned to love, and nevertheless you learned nothing. In your soul there is no love. You don't love neither God, nor the neighbors, nor other people.
The teacher kept silent for a while and added,
Everything is very simple and clear. Is it true?
A person meets the guardian angel. The guardian angel shows a way to the person. The person asks the angel, What kind of road is this?
It is your life journey.
And whose footprints are there on this road?
They are your and mine. I always was near you.
The person looks and sees that in one place the footprints of only one pair of legs are visible. The person was surprised and asks, And why here are there traces of only one pair of legs?
T was the most difficult period in your life.
How could you leave me then?
I didn't leave you. At that time I carried you in my arms. Therefore on the road there were only my footprints. Parable.
Bitter truth.
I had nothing to tell the teacher. His frankness shook me to the core. I thought that I am a person quite good and quite decent. But unexpectedly for myself I suddenly learned that it is not so. It is always pleasant when you are praised. It seemed to me that surrounding people think of me only well. But whether is it so actually? By the way, I also don't say to other people what I think of them. When the teacher said that he knew all my thoughts, I especially didn't trust in it. Now I was convinced that the teacher knows about me what I was afraid to admit to myself. I had such feeling as if I were illuminated through the X-ray. Everything that I hid deeply as it seemed to me, suddenly became visible. But what shall I do now? Whether it is possible to correct anything in my life? As always, the teacher came to the rescue in the most difficult hour of need.
Remember one simple thing. God loves all His souls. God is love. Therefore, God forgives a lot of things, but He forgives not for a good reason, but when the person realizes his fault and will try to purify it. The simplest way is to ask pardon for God. Only thus, the person shouldn't be a hypocrite.
And if the person comes to church and will pray, unless it isn't enough.
Some people think that if they come to church and pray for God, it will be enough. If it is possible to call the person believe in God, if he leads out of a threshold of church and will sin again.
And if it's not so?
No, it's not so. To ask forgiveness means to realize the sin. It means that the person not only realized that he behaved incorrectly, but also that he won't behave so anymore. People know perfectly what is good and what is bad. People know perfectly that it is impossible to sin. But people think that if nobody sees and doesn't know what they do and think actually, that's okay. But nothing can be hidden from us. We see not only the acts of the person, but also we know his thoughts. Certainly. For example, the person gives alms to the poor and thinks that he has made good business, but he regretted of this money himself, or he thought that the poor would spend this money on drink all the same. We see the true essence of the person. Nevertheless, we are obliged to help the person until the end of his life, because God loves each person.
Even if a person is a murderer.
Remember a simple thing. God loves everyone. even murderers. He gives a chance to improve to such people. God has known the dead. Even if the person was lost, his soul remains. You have already forgotten that the identity of the person is stored in a soul. If the person died, that means his soul returned to the invisible world, to that world, from where it came to earth. God sends the soul on the earth to a body of the person because he wants people to learn to love each other. Therefore, each person and each soul is given a chance to learn love.
But what to do if the person doesn't want to learn it?
For this purpose, God has a simple law, the boomerang law. We call this law the law of causal relationships, or a karma. This law works precisely and impartially, as inclination law. If you threw a brick up, it will surely return back. Also, it isn't necessary to be surprised if this brick falls to your head. You have thrown this brick yourself. If the person doesn't want to observe divine precepts and sins constantly, he is expected by inevitable payment.
What payment?
There are different ways of education of the person. These ways are very simple. If the person offended someone, that means that someone would offend him. If the person stole something, that means something would be stolen from him. If the person threw the parents late in life, that means his own children would throw him too.
All this is strange. I didn't notice that everything occurs as you speak.
I gave you the simplest examples, but there are other ways of education of the person. For example, the person while being a child stole an apple in someone's garden, so something will be stolen from him when he will have already become an adult. Not necessarily the punishment will follow at once for any offense. We understand that the person could steal an apple in someone's garden by nonsense. He was a child and didn't understand that it is wrong to steal. Though actually, even children understand what is good and what is bad. But teachers of mankind wait patiently when the person realizes his sins. But if the person continues to steal, he will be surely overtaken by payment. He can be caught for theft and punished. He can be put in prison. We can give to the person the other punishment. The simplest way is an illness. When the person constantly sins, then severe punishment is applied to him. The person can be seriously ill.
All this is not logically. The person steals, and he is punished with an illness.
Why isn't it logical? Look, the person got used to steal, and we will make so that he will break a hand or a leg. When he will have stayed in plaster for a month, that means that he won't steal at this time. Everything is logical.
I find that hard to swallow that such way is effective.
You cannot doubt, we have different ways. We can burn the house of the person, and he will remain without housing. Don't forget that we know all thoughts of the person. We know what the person is afraid of, what isn't pleasant to him, what is pleasant. Therefore, the way of education always will be. And even if such way won't help, we can take him away to ourselves.
What means to take away? Where to take away?
It means that such person will die.
So, it turns out that casual death don't happen.
It turns out that anything casual doesn't occur in human life. If on the person troubles pour in abundance, that means he deserved them. People often damn the destiny at all without suspecting that they chose such destiny. Different options of destiny are planned to the person, and we grant him the right to choose any option. And in order the person knew how to choose the best option. God gave to people simple rules, 10 precepts. Behave yourself according to these rules, and you will choose the best option of the destiny.
Again about destiny.
Now it is possible to consider how the destiny of the person is formed on a simple and clear example. The teacher continued. The destiny of the person consists of events which will occur in his life. We call such events control points. How do you think? What is first control point, or the first event, which occurs in life of each person?
All people are different, I began to argue. Therefore, any event can be such a control point.
Your conclusion is incorrect. You are right that different people will have different events in life. But I asked about the first event, which occurs in life of each person. The first event for all people on the earth is the birth of the person. The destiny of the person begins with the birth.
Why haven't I guessed it myself? I thought, it is so simple.
Well, actually, not everything is so simple as it seems to you. Do you think it's so simple to send an invisible easy soul to the terrestrial world and to place it in a human body? Before the birth of the person we plan, in what country has a soul to be born, who will be the parents of a future child? It seems to you that there is nothing difficult in the birth of the person. Actually, we prepare each soul for the birth on Earth, as you prepare an astronaut for the flight in space. Each future child is patronized by his teacher, and it's not even the one teacher.
What do you mean saying not the one?
Don't forget that future mother also has got the teacher. One teacher supervises a condition of future mother. The second teacher supervises the birth of the child. Both teachers work together. Thus, to all people on Earth, the first control point in their program is the birth. Now you can guess yourself, what will be the following control point in the life of the child?
When the child will go to school.
In principle, you reason correctly. The only thing is that you have to understand that not all children go to school. In your country, the secondary education is obligatory. In other countries, many children have no opportunity to go to school. Now answer my simple question. What is a control point for the person in his destiny?
Probably, this is any important event in his life.
Correctly. By the way, such important events in human life can be not so many. Let's consider your life. Name me the control points of your destiny.
But I don't know it precisely.
You can name them approximately. Imagine that you have been asked to write the autobiography. What would you write?
I would write when I was born. Then when I went to school. After school I entered the university. Went to army. Then worked. Married. Then we gave birth to our children.
Here you see, everything is very simple. The majority of people will have a similar destiny. We plan only the most important events in human life. Other events in his life will be minor. For this reason, people don't feel that they have a destiny. It seems to them that everything in their life occurs by itself. But actually it is not so. We supervise each person, and we look how the person behaves in this or that situation. How the person behaves in a control point of his life, his further destiny depends. Let's return to your destiny. When you went to school, you had no choice. You were obliged to go to school and to study. But how to study, good or bad, you solved yourself. The only thing is that then you hadn't known yet for the sake of what you need to study well. You didn't know what destiny would wait for you if you studied badly. And I knew that if you studied badly, you would be a worker and you wouldn't become an engineer. For this reason, I inspired you all the time to study well. When you studied badly, the teacher gave you bad marks, your parents brought up you. Leaving the school was the following control point. No matter if you want or don't want, the school is graduated, and you have to make a choice what to do farther. You can go to study further, but you can go to work. In any control point, you make any choice. Thus, we can examine all your life. The only thing is that you don't know what real control points are in your destiny. But I know it. Keep in mind that each your act can have the crucial importance for your destiny.
What do you mean?
It is very simple. If you remember, people were given divine precepts, norms of morals. We consider each act of the person from the point of view of these simple norms and rules. For example, you didn't see to sit to an old woman in the subway. That means you didn't execute the precept love the neighbor as yourself. Each such act influences your further destiny. Next time someone won't see to sit to you, or there will be any other unpleasant event in your life.
It isn't absolutely clear to me, as nevertheless you realize that program which is written for people by you.
There are some ways. These are accidents, etc. For example, the person goes by car and gets to a car accident. Thus, it is possible to punish the person for greed. Once, he regretted 50 euros for a good deed, and as a result of accident, he will break the car, and will spend for repair of 1,000 euros.
I didn't understand. So you can also arrange automobile accidents.
It is simple for us. It is possible to arrange any malfunction of the car. For example, brakes can fail to operate, and the accident will be inevitable. We can influence the driver. The driver for some seconds will lose attention and will run into an accident.
But how can you induce my brother to give me any gift?
We can inspire it to him.
What does it mean to inspire?
Well, have you never heard about suggestion?
No suggestion is present. The person does himself what considers to be necessary.
Don't hurry with such hasty conclusions. Even people have an ability of suggestion. Unless don't you know that there is a hypnosis.
Don't hurry with such hasty conclusions. Even people have an ability of suggestion. Unless don't you know that there is a hypnosis.
Here you see how everything is simple. You may consider that we are also hypnotists. We can subordinate the will of any person to ourselves and inspire anything in him. But we do it only when it is necessary. If the person is fated to be lost in mountains, we will inspire in him that he surely has to go to the mountains, even if the person has never in his life seen mountains. Relatives of such person will say that if the person didn't go to the mountains, he wouldn't be lost. It seems to people that the person was lost ridiculous casual death. Actually, everything is planned by us.
Let me see. It turns out that you even planned how the person will die.
Yes, it's so. For us, everything is absolutely exact. Till the birth of the person, it is already known when he will be born, what events in his life can occur, when and how he will die. I repeat it to you for some time now. Each act can affect a further course of life of the person. The person can make any nonsense in youth, and payment for it will come in his old age. So everything in this world is natural. Think well of it.